What up, y'all? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're looking at the Insta360 One X2. I'm going to take a look at the pros, the cons, what it does best, what it sucks at, and should you buy it. Let's get into it. So I've had this camera now for a couple of months since the release date, and I've done extensive testing and I've used it a ton. So I do feel like I have a good grasp of what this thing does really well and what it does poorly. First of all, the biggest upgrade I think for the One X Mark II versus the original is that it now is waterproof. That's a really big upgrade for any type of action cam. I think it's kind of a necessity now. This thing is waterproof down to about 10 meters or about 33 feet. So let's run through some of the specs. Obviously a dual 90-degree camera on either side. That's picking up a full 360 video. It shoots in about 5.7K stitched, more on that later, in 24, 25, and 30 frames per second. The sensor is a 1/2.3 inch sensor, CMOS sensor. It does look really nice. Kind of has that same action cam type look that the GoPro and other Insta360 has. So it's a very saturated, processed image coming out of it. But again, more on that later when we talk about pros and cons. The effective focal length is 7.2 millimeters on either side. And again, you could punch in software and change all sorts of things, but it basically collects all the data from 360 degrees all around you, and then in post gives you the ability and flexibility to do so many different things. The circular touchscreen is really interesting. It's a 1.3 inch touchscreen display, and I both love it and hate it. But I think it's really nice that you have that touchscreen display where you can really get into features and playback and settings, and it's all just very intuitive and kind of nice to use. It's weird. I don't really love the circular display, but in this 360 setting, it actually works quite well. So I don't know, there's that. Record button underneath, power button on the side. And that's pretty much it. It's got a little small waterproof speaker on the side for playback, which I actually like. The micro SD card is built inside the battery pack, so the slot is in there for you to be able to access the micro SD card slot on the go, but keep it waterproof. And then you have a USB-C port with a waterproof latch on the side. Now, when talking about the overall design for it, at first the length and size of it kind of bugged me, but that's because I was comparing it to something like the DJI Action or the normal GoPro. But this length really has to do with the size of the battery. The battery takes up about 2/3 the size of this camera, and although it is an annoyance, I think it's a huge pro because I love the battery life. It has an estimated runtime of about 85 minutes and about 80 minutes to fully charge, so it does take a little bit of time to charge, but overall the battery life lasted a really long time for me, and I noticed that throughout my daily use I didn't run out of battery quite often. I only have one battery pack and I haven't found the need to really get another one, so that is a big pro. Some other notable features to talk about. So this does have the ability to pair with your AirPods for built-in audio to record from your AirPods. I found those to be not very good, so I didn't like that feature. It also has the ability to pair with your smartwatch for smartwatch controls. Again, I found that glitchy and annoying and not very well done. The interface isn't really smooth yet, so I also found that to be kind of a con. So both of those I don't really like. The thing I do really like is the voice control features on this. They work really well and they're actually really, really useful, especially if you're on the end of like the invisible 360 stick, the invisible stick that has, it's pretty long, right? So if you're not close to the camera, if you have it extended fully out, you don't want to be able to have to reach to turn it on every time, then reach and pull it back. But really, the voice control works really well. You could say start recording and boom, it fires up and starts recording and does a really good job with that. So I highly recommend the voice control features on this unit. Talking about this invisible 360 stick, the selfie stick, it works really well. It's really cool. It's stitched out in camera, so I don't ever have to worry about going into post and stitching out. It truly is invisible because the cameras don't pick up this little area right underneath it. So this is a really cool accessory. It's a must buy. It's not like you want to get one of these and then not have these sticks. This is a must purchase, so I just include it as the price of the camera. Provided links to everything below, but I really, really like this accessory. The thing I don't really like is the bullet time. It's basically just a cord that you swing this thing around. It's kind of a gimmicky type look, and I've used it once or twice and then just returned the accessory because I didn't really use it. Another new feature for this unit is it has a 4-mic 360 audio recording abilities. That's supposed to be some new technology. We're gonna take a look at that in some of the test footage to look at how good the onboard audio is. In the Mark I and a lot of these 360 and action cameras, the onboard audio is not very good. So I really want to talk about the 360 cam in general and what you guys would use it for, what I would use it for. First of all, let's just have an idea of what a 360 camera can do. There's not a lot of tricks that this hardware does. It basically is just two cameras recording everything in front of it and then pushing all that data to you in post. And post is where all the magic happens. The software is what sets the 360 camera apart because it allows for unique movements and focusing on one thing and having gimbal, super smooth footage. That's all done in post in software. So really the hardware doesn't do much. It's just two cameras built into one small unit and recording everything. So if you have that understanding, you kind of have a grasp of what 360 cameras are. This 360 camera, although it is a really good unit, I will say a con right off the bat is they didn't up the resolution. The resolution is still 5.7K stitched between the two. So what does that mean? If you're looking at a 360-degree image in like a headset or on your computer and you're moving the camera around, that's not 5.7K in that window. 5.7K is the whole image recording everything that this can record. But the effective resolution that you would actually view these videos in, especially with any type of gimbal movements or on a VR headset, is really more like 2.7K or closer to like a little bit under 1080p. And that's because it's pushing in on that stitched image and only using a small piece of it. And that's the biggest flaw of this Mark II. I really wish they would have upped the stitched resolution so that the effective resolution is something more like 4K. It would make this a lot more clean, a lot more crisp of an image, and a lot more usable. For anyone really pixel peeping or zooming in at all, you're gonna really notice that the details are crushed by the resolution, so that's the biggest ceiling that this camera has. But let's jump into the pros from the pros and cons after some extensive use and see what I loved most. Live Stream 360 feature. Now I'm not a live streamer, but I did test this out a little bit and it works really well. Something I've seen not a lot on the 360 cameras, and this just does a very good job with it. Again, it's a big software feature. The Insta 360 app on iOS and Android is really not, actually I haven't tested it on Android, but I'm assuming it's the same as on iOS. It's just a really great app. It's really easy to use. It's intuitive. I can do all my edits in there. So that's another huge pro. Once you get the hang of how to edit 360 video, you can do it really easily and intuitively in the iOS app. So that is a huge plus. I love the app overall. There's so many different movements you can do and so many different gimbal type things. It really is like they tried to make it as much as possible, like having a one-man band and a camera crew just in your pocket because of all the unique movements that this thing can do. And another thing I really love, it has a feature to go into an action cam mode. So it really just switches over to only using one lens instead of the 360 footage. So you do get a little bit more memory space on your cards, and it has really good flow state stabilization, which I think outperforms even the GoPro, which has phenomenal stabilization. But this is a really cool, versatile way to have a built-in 360 cam and an action cam just by turning off one of those cameras and software doing its thing. So I do really like that as well. And really, that's kind of my point overall. The biggest pro to this camera and what I love the most is it's super versatile. You can use it for so many different things. You can use it as an action cam. You can use it as a VR 360 cam. You can use it to do time lapses and interesting VR movements and gimbal type movements that you can't do on any other camera. And that's what really sets this camera apart, is the ability to do so many different things in one small and efficient package. Now, speaking of versatility, can we use it as a vlogging? Well, let's jump into some vlog test footage right now. All right, so we're in the dugout. I'm at the local baseball field. And this is the vlogging test for the Insta 360 One X2. Now, is this a viable option for a vlogging rig? I don't know, but here I'm going to test it out. Now, here are some pros to this rig. It's lightweight, it's small, it's compact, and it's easy to use. It's all automated, so I really just have automatic settings on. I don't need to worry about manual settings or what the picture looks like, because I know overall it's gonna be that GoPro looking, you know, oversaturated type look. And that's okay with me, because really that's not what this is for. Now, for audio, I have the Synovia adapter linked up to some Rode Wireless Go mics, and that Synovia adapter has worked really well for my main vlogging rig, which is the DJI Osmo Action. So I really like that. I know I'm gonna get good quality audio and I don't really need to worry about it. Some things I don't like about that Synovia adapter is it does protrude out of the side. So on a 360 camera like this, when I flip the camera around, I may have that. So you can kind of see here, I think you can see on the side that that's sticking out a little bit, so it gets in the frame, which I don't really like. so I kind of have to keep that towards the back, I think. But in judging when framing up and looking at some of my test shots, I noticed that did get in the way, so that's kind of annoying. All right, so now we're gonna take a listen to what it sounds like with just the onboard mics. I'm gonna take out the Synovia adapter. Here is that footage. So this is just the onboard audio, and how does this sound in comparison to having the wireless Go system on there? There might be a little bit of wind noise. It's not really windy today. It's a little bit. I guess not really, but let's hear. Do you hear any wind noise? What does it sound like? Does it sound tinny? A lot of onboard mics, especially in action cameras, are actually trash, but they claim that these are new, improved, multi-direction onboard audio. So what does it sound like? Do you guys like it? Is it usable? One thing to note is that when you do have the Synovia adapter on and you do have the Rode Wireless Go or any other mic on for that point, you do lose the weatherproofing. So you do lose the waterproof. It's waterproof up to, I think, 30 feet. So you do lose that because you do have to pop open the cover and use the USB-C adapter to get the Synovia adapter in there. So that's one thing that kind of sucks. But I do think that if you're vlogging, you're probably not needing the weatherproofing so much unless you're in the rain or heavy snow or something like that. But another idea is having one of these. This is the Ceremonic mics that you could plug in straight to the Synovia adapter, and then you wouldn't even have to worry about clipping on these external audio devices. So that's the onboard mic right here. Let's hear what it sounds like, and let's go back to the Rode Wireless Go. Another thing that kind of sucks about this setup is how wide of a shot it is. It's kind of a pro and a con. Some vloggers really like that wide angle shot. I personally don't like it super wide, like the action cam wide for vlogging, because if you're doing long form video, it's just a little bit difficult to see and to watch for long periods of time when it's super wide. So that ultra wide is kind of a blessing and a curse. So that's that. Let's run these bases. Let's check out how stable this footage is. Are you ready? Let's go. Okay, first base. Oh my God, I am not as fast as I could. There's not even a freaking base there. The third base, I'm running all out. You can see how smooth that is. That is some smooth footage. I think I'm cramping. I pulled a muscle. That smooth footage is definitely probably the biggest pro to having this as your go-to vlogging set. That's about it for this vlogging test. Let's get back in the studio and wrap up the review. So that is the vlog test footage, and a couple of things I want to touch on after looking at the footage. First of all, man, that flow state stabilization is so sweet. I love it so much. And I love the fact that you really never have to worry about framing up your shot. I never once thought when I was shooting that footage or any other footage about what am I getting? Am I in the shot? Do I need to look at the screen? Do I need to frame up properly? I never even thought about that because I knew I could just frame it up in post. The vlog footage looked really good for stabilization. I love that. The exposure looked really good. It was a little bit oversaturated for my liking, but that's just kind of to be expected with the action cam. What I was really blown away with was the internal built-in audio. I was expecting it to be way worse, but that sounded really good, right? I didn't catch much wind noise. I had wind noise reduction on in camera, and overall, I didn't notice a huge difference between having external audio and the internal audio, so I was really blown away with that. Now, I have done some testing with this underwater, and again, of course, internal audio underwater is crap, but that's with everything. There's no real fix for that because you're underwater, so everything sounds muffled. I think for vlogging, this is a underappreciated tool thus far. I think I'm gonna be using it for some vlogging because it's just so easy to keep in my bag and super convenient. Now, some flaws with it is my whole setup. It's nice on paper, but I didn't really love it in actual use. The Synovia adapter, it's a little bit of a pain because it sticks out on the side, so it does interfere with the shot, as you could see. So unless you punch in or hold it at an angle where the adapter's on the back side, so that everything facing forward is kind of away or on the other side of the Synovia adapter, then you can really get away with it, and using it with the Video Mic Go made it really convenient and a nice package. I still always trust external audio more, especially in like super windy situations or when you're holding it really far away. Maybe you're walking away from the camera or doing anything where this is on a tripod. It's something to think of too. Having that external audio built in on you is always just better. But I was just so blown away with the internal audio that I think it's a really great vlogging device. All right, so the reason I bought this camera was not just for this review for you guys. I'm actually starting up a business doing Matterport real estate tours. If you don't know what that is, I'll create a whole nother video on tutorials and how to use this for Matterport. Matterport is the leader in that virtual tour space, so you have to use that software to be able to get good quality MLS listings for real estate photography. Now, I'm currently in the process of launching a real estate photography business because I'm I'm trying to transition out of weddings because the sickness kind of crushed my business. So I bought this for that reason, and it just does a really, really good job, shoots a really high quality virtual tours. So if you are into real estate photography and want to get into Matterport tours and don't want to drop $5,000 on a Matterport camera, then this is definitely your answer, and stay tuned for more videos on that. But of course, it isn't perfect. Now let's get into some of the cons, and there are some pretty big cons. Number one being, I really hate the computer desktop software, the non-iOS version of their 360 software. I hate it so much. It was so frustrating. I just didn't like it. And I use Final Cut and Premiere Pro, so I'm really versed, and I've used DaVinci Resolve a little bit. So I'm really versed in editing software, but this software just was finicky, was buggy, was slow. It was really annoying. So many little bugs that freaking annoyed the hell out of me. So the desktop software, it's not there yet. It needs a lot of work. But a pro is they did do a good job giving you plugins for whatever editing software you use. So you can have a plugin to go into Premiere Pro or Final Cut Pro and be able to edit 360 footage there. Now, those plugins are cool on paper, but again, they're not as useful, and they're a little bit more glitchy than using an iOS device. Really, that's the best way to edit these videos and photos, is on an iOS device, which is kind of weird and counterintuitive to any other video editing. So I would consider that a con, but I hope in future software updates, they up their game for the desktop software. I think that would be a huge pro, because right now I don't really love it. Some other cons, the screen is a little bit weird to use in real world use because the screen moves around a lot and doesn't give you a locked frame and can't like lock onto your face if you're vlogging. And so you're constantly having to move around in the little frame to 360 spin your image around to find the angle that you want to see. So it's kind of annoying there. The touch screen is a little bit finicky. I found it annoying. Sometimes I was swiping up, 5-6 times to get it to actually swipe up to get into settings. And playback is a little bit annoying if you want to skip around. I mean, the touchscreen is just not perfect. It's a little bit gimmicky. A pro and a con that I want to touch on is that actually the video format that it shoots in a proprietary Insta 360 format. So you can't just get this video out, put it on your cell phone and press play. You have to go into some type of 360 software to be able to do any type of editing, convert it out, and then to watch it on a device. So that is just an extra step in your workflow, and it's kind of annoying and adds time overall. These lenses, and it's just kind of a physics thing where the lenses protrude out on the body, but the lenses are really susceptible to scratches. And once you scratch these lenses, there's no way to repair them, so it just kind of destroys your camera. And for an action camera especially, I found myself having to be really, really careful with the lenses and always having, some type of cover on when it's in your bag. You can't just throw it around. You can't throw it in your pocket, because if it comes in contact with keys and scratches one of these lenses, well, then you're done. That scratch is going to be really prominent and really noticeable in your footage. Even if you get a raindrop or a water droplet on one of the lenses, it kind of ruins the image and the video as a whole, because it's so prominent on that video that you got to keep them always clean and clear. And it is an annoyance, but it's just nothing you could do, because it's kind of a physics things with these lenses. I mean, I guess you could expand the body out and make it a little bit wider to give it some protection. Then you're dealing with a bigger package overall. So I would say that's a con, just something you guys should be aware of. So should you buy the 360 ONE X2? So first of all, if you have the Mark I version, yes, you should upgrade. I don't usually say that in, new Mark II generation type gear. I don't usually say to upgrade from the originals, but yes, definitely upgrade. And that's just because of the waterproofing. It makes this so much more of a usable camera. Overall, here are my final thoughts. When I purchased this camera, I was buying into the marketing that Insta360 ONE is doing, in that it's a video production crew in your pocket, able to get really cool movements and angles just on yourself that you can't do with any other camera. And yes, it can do that, but it's definitely not a cinematic tool, because the quality of the footage is not there yet. It is lacking. It's disappointing and frustrating for someone who's into video and into cinematic footage and into quality. I'm looking at this footage that's coming out of this, and it's disappointing. The resolution is not good. The oversaturated, overprocessed image that coming out of it is more like a GoPro, more like a cheaper low-end camera than a professional camera. And I don't know why my mindset was that. I think it's because I had such high expectations, especially seeing that 5.7K resolution number. I was expecting really high quality, crisp images coming out of it. It just doesn't do that. Once I got away from that mindset and didn't look at it as a cinematic tool that I can use for professional use and use with, different quality video, but I was thinking like I could go from a drone to, a DSLR on a gimbal, then jump over to this footage and swing it around, do some really cool movements, get some unique angles, then back to a drone. And and then stitch it all together and put it in a professional package. And it's just not there yet. It just can't do that. So once you switch your mind away from that and look at it more as an action cam, as a hobby, a toy, something to get fun, unique footage that's really creative that you would never think to do, that nothing else can do, well then this has a definite spot and belongs in your camera bag, and it's always in mine now and I use it all the time. But I just had to get away from, being disappointed with the quality, because it definitely is, a limiting factor with this. Now, what would you guys use it for? That's the real question. Are you using it as an action cam? Are you using it as a 360 cam predominantly? Are you using it for virtual tours and VR type stuff? I mean, it can do so many different things that I trust that you will be able to find usage for it. It's just understanding its limitations, understanding its frustrations, and understanding that to get that footage in post, it's gonna take a little bit more time and a little bit more patience and editing abilities. So with those extra steps, I think that you can get some really, really useful, fun, exciting images and video out of this camera. I love it. I think it's worth the purchase, especially at $429. I trust that in the future, 360 footage will continue to improve and get better and better and better to the point where it is cinematic and useful for professional use. But right now it's just a fun toy that I really, really love. So tell me what you guys think, what you would use it for. Are you gonna pick one up? I hope this review brought you some value. If it did, hit me with a thumbs up, a like, and subscribe for more awesome videos. I'm thinking about doing a whole series on these cameras and what I'm doing with them, like VR tours and Matterport and tutorials and stuff like that. If you guys would like that, drop me with a comment. Let me know what you'd like to see. I'll see you guys in the next one. Appreciate y'all. Peace.